This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a special program on India's role in UN Climate Change Conference COP26 in Glasgow.
Climate change is probably the single biggest threat facing the world's biodiversity. The world is warming because of fossil fuel emissions caused by humans. Scientists predict that if humans continue to live as we do today, rising temperatures and more frequent extreme weather events may lead to widespread extinction. The past decade was the warmest on record, and the governments agree that urgent collective action is needed. For nearly 3 decades, the UN Climate Change Conference has been bringing together almost every country on the earth for global climate summits called Conference of Parties or COP. The COP26, hosted by the UK in partnership with Italy, will take place from 31st October to 12th of November 2021 in Glasgow, UK. The summit will bring parties together to accelerate action towards the goals of the Paris Agreement. The success or failure of our climate future is in the hands of world leaders, stressed Alok Sharma, the president of COP26, in a speech given at UNESCO headquarters in Paris on 12th of October.
My message to leaders in every donor nation is clear. Please step forward now in these few days before COP26, because that promised $100 billion is vital to the success of the summit. We simply must deliver. COP26 is not a photo op, nor a talking shop. It must be the forum where we put the world on track to deliver on climate. And that is down to leaders. It is leaders who made a promise to the world in Paris 6 years ago. And it is leaders that must honor it. Responsibility rests with each and every country, and we must all play our part. Because on climate, the world will succeed or fail as one.
India's climate policies and increasing renewable energy infrastructure can serve as a model for other countries looking to achieve their climate targets. At the National Conference on COP26 Charter of Actions, Honorable Union Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Shri Bhupender Yadav said, "Equity and climate justice are touchstones of any global climate response. Concerted actions are needed in terms of cooperation between all countries, especially with developed countries taking a lead in climate action through mitigation, adaptation, and providing support to developing countries in terms of climate finance, capacity building, and technology transfer."
Climate change is a defining issue confronting humanity right now. The impact of climate change are being felt globally. The need of the hour is a comprehensive set of actions within socio-economic and developmental context to deal with the issue of climate change. Concrete actions are needed in terms of cooperation between all countries, especially with developed countries taking a lead in climate action through mitigation, adaptation, and providing support to developing countries in terms of climate finance, capacity building, and technology transfer. The recently released report by IPCC has sounded alarm bells louder than ever, and it is a clarion call for the developed countries to undertake immediate deep emission cuts. India is committed, constant to the UNFCCC and Paris Agreement, and I am hopeful for a successful balanced outcome of COP26. India has taken several actions under the visionary leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji to tackle climate change by taking several initiatives including inter alia implementation of National Action Plan on Climate Change, National Adaptation Fund on Climate Change, Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicle in India scheme, setting up of international solar lines, coalition of our disaster resilience infrastructure, leadership group of industry transition, and putting in place an ambitious national hydrogen mission and continuing effort to decouple its emission from economic growth. India has an aspirational target of installing 450 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2030. Indian Railways has set a target to becoming net zero carbon emitter by 2030. At the same time, ambitious climate action in developing countries is dependent on enhanced support for developed countries under the Paris Agreement. India has repeatedly called upon the developed countries to fulfill their promise of $100 billion per year goal. In this regard, COP26 should focus on climate finance in scope, scale and speed, along with development transfer of technologies and capacity building support.
Director General, Indian Institute of Sustainable Development (IISD) and Carbon Minus India (CMI), Dr. Shrikant Panigrahi highlighted India's adherence to its intended nationally determined contributions.
India has always played a decisive role, leadership role in preventing climate change and taking aggressive climate action. If you see India's INDC, Intended National Determined Contribution, it is very promising and robust document which became the NDC after the approval of the 193 countries in the Paris in 2015 December, that this is the NDC for India. If you see the historic data of the India, whatever India has committed, India has already done so far. And India is ahead than many countries, and the global estimation report has appreciated India's leadership drive and achievement, particularly the target of 175 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2022 and 100 gigawatt out of which is solar energy. And India is quite ahead than its target. And if you see the India's NDC document, India has also committed 40% of its total energy basket to come from renewable and non-fossil fuel route, which neither committed by China nor USA.
Dr. Shrikant Panigrahi also highlighted India's commitment to become a leader in green hydrogen, which is derived through electrolysis of water using energy derived from renewable sources.
India has always played a decisive role, leadership role in preventing climate change and taking aggressive climate action. The global estimation report has appreciated India's leadership drive and achievement, particularly the target of 175 gigawatt of renewable energy by 2022 and 100 gigawatt out of which is solar energy. And India is quite ahead than its target. And by 2020, India was in most promising position. If you see the India's NDC document, India has also committed 40% of its total energy basket to come from renewable and non-fossil fuel route. India is also committed for green hydrogen in particular, and which is again a non-fossil fuel and a totally green form of energy basket. And India will not only generate green hydrogen for its own consumption, but also India is planning to export it to the other countries and help them. And India is already in International Solar Alliance. We are trying to help all the 121 tropical countries who are under sun.
The Indian government, along with International Solar Alliance (ISA) and the World Bank, has developed a plan titled One Sun, One World, One Grid. This plan advocates for the construction of a transnational solar grid. The primary objective of the One Sun, One World, One Grid plan is to help seamless transmission of solar energy across international borders. The host nation for the COP26, the United Kingdom, has offered its support for implementing the One Sun, One World, One Grid plan. The International Solar Alliance also plans to launch the World Solar Bank or WSB at the Glasgow conference. Environmentalist C.K. Vashni lauds India's initiative One Sun, One World, One Grid, but pointed out that it requires commitment from other countries to help reduce carbon emissions.
India has been very straightforward and taking very forward-looking decisions. We have got Global Alliance, which ultimately also got the UN, approval. And for that, India has also proposed One Sun, One World, One Grid. Now, this kind of an proposal is something which requires commitment from the countries. For this, as it will have a great impact in reducing carbon emissions. But this requires capital investment. And for that, again, finances are needed. And therefore, it is time that this proposal which India has been proposing must also be financed. And countries must forward to provide the necessary finance for this, so that a clean energy permanent source may be available, because sun shines all the 24 hours, but in some places it is dark and some places there is a sunlight. So one can really compensate from one area to another if we really see that one sun, one world and one grid concept gets implemented, and it is really gets the support as well as the required financing over a period of time to make it happen as a viable alternative to the fossil fuels.
With a thriving renewable energy market in India, the total installed renewable energy capacity has gradually increased year on year. Inclusive policy decisions taken by the government have also resulted in a significant amount of investments pouring into the clean energy market in the country. Environmentalist C.K. Varshney pointed at India's low per capita emissions despite being third highest carbon emitter, and said that equity and climate justice should be taken into account while setting climate goals.
India is third emitter, but I think it is important for us to know that our total contribution at present is only 7% out of 100. So although we are third, but the difference between the second and the third is huge. And also if we take per capita emission of carbon dioxide, then we are well below the global average. So all these things have to be said along with this when we say that we are the third largest emitter. In fact, look at our population and look at the developmental stage. We have not really used any of the carbon space which others have already utilized and have left very little for other countries to make use of. So I think here is also a question of carbon justice or environmental justice.
The Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, MNRE, has stated that India is on course to achieve its INDC target of 40% installed power capacity from non-fossil fuel-based energy sources. A total of 450 gigawatts of renewable energy installed capacity is set to be achieved by the end of 2030. The steadfast commitment of India towards achieving its climate goals can be an inspiration for both developing and developed countries.
It's time to wise up, get our act together. This is so much more than changes in the weather. We say no, no, no more wasting time. And we say no, no, no more wasting time. It's time to wise up, get our act together. This is so much more than changes in the weather. And we say no, no, no more wasting time. And we say no, no, no more wasting time. The time is now. Oh, 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 oh. 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 Now.
You were listening to a special program on India's role in UN Climate Change Conference COP26 in Glasgow. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.